If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we're back in a very unique setting here. Sorry, guys, we had a little bit of a delay getting back from Range Day at SHOT Show 2026. We're out here in Vegas. Chris is out here as well, but he is, just realized something. Can you plug in that audio cable? They can't hear me.
Hey, I bet they could hear me, though.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, can you guys, there we go. Now I've got audio. Sorry about that, guys. It's just been a comedy of errors tonight.
This could be a really good show.
Yeah.
There is no telling.
Yes. Yeah.
What is going to happen in the next 30 minutes or an hour based on what's happened today. So
yeah, it's
cool.
been something. But anyways, we are out here in Vegas. I'm going to say the 30 seconds of speaking that I said before I realized the audio cable wasn't plugged in. We are out here at Vegas SHOT Show 2026. Chris is out here with us, but he has a important event tonight, so he asked us to host for him. And then we got caught up on a bus coming back from the Range Day and ended up running about an hour late. So I apologize, but we're thankful.
We tried to get some scenery in the background.
Yeah,
we're here. The Strip in Vegas is right behind us. The Bellagio with the fountains is right behind us, and maybe, I don't know, every 30 minutes or something.
Yeah, we'll have Luke hold up the camera so you guys can get a better view.
So maybe we're not that interesting. You can just wait on the fountains to go off, and you'll have something
there you
to
go.
look at.
But anyways, I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Yeah. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Minnesota. At this point, are we on the verge of an insurrection with everything that's going on there, and just talking about everything that's happening in the world of the ICE raids and people seemingly just wanting to obstruct the justice of our ICE agents. And then we'll talk about some other things. We're going to get into it. Before we do, real quick, I want to, and if you see me reaching down, it's because we didn't really have a computer stand to work for our backdrop. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up to go over and sign up on our Substack for the Guardians membership. Gets you all kinds of things and access to 6 private encrypted signal channels that are full of people just talking about intel, all kinds of things. We have general chats in there, but we also have a lot of information. All the ThreatWire stuff is in there. So you guys will see me every once in a while in there beating up the keyboard, trying to give you guys as much information as possible. And that right now is it is $7.99 a month, or you can pay $79.99 for the year, and that gets you all of that access plus behind the scenes content, our 37 survival emags. So go over there at survivaldispatch.news and sign up. We would love to have you there for sure. Also, Wasatch, I don't know if I said that right. Wagyu.com, WASATCH. They're going to hate me for mispronouncing that. Use SD20 for 20% off of your order for the next week. And they have amazing meat there. And hope you guys will show them some love and show that you support them and support us through that. All right, we're going to get into talking about our what is going on in the world of the ICE raids. Let me pull this up here, and we'll get you guys going. Let me present here.
Yeah, I think it's
go ahead and talk, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's important that you stay on top of what's going on. Sometimes, just the regular mainstream media is not a great source. It's a good source of biased information, but I think really, in my opinion, X is one of the biggest sources, along with people like Survival Dispatch, other people providing you, and not just our opinion, but providing you with what's really going on. And we do that by providing you with video. Like, just watch this video for yourself, and you figure out in your own mind what you think is going on. Is this too much, or is it not enough? And a lot of times, just that simple information, you don't see all of the actual video stuff going on. I saw a video just yesterday. I don't think we have it queued up. The video made it look like it was an ICE agent, but I think it was just somebody in the crowd getting drug away by 100 protesters. Like,
that was the guy that's been going into Minneapolis, Jake.
Yeah.
I forget what his last name is, but yeah.
It's like he has got drug away like a shark dragging a baby seal out to the middle of the ocean.
Yep.
And nobody's showing that. You don't see it on the news, but I mean, that's the type of information we need to keep providing. We're going to keep trying to provide that here. And so please do not hesitate to search that information out through us, through Survival Dispatch, and of course on your own, and help those things, the real video, make decisions for you about what's going on out there. Yep. And the potential for what could be going on in the future, which is what we want to talk to you about here tonight. For sure.
And Dave brings a unique experience. For those of you guys that it's been a while since he's been on here, but he's 29 years as a cop, and also 15 years as a SWAT commander, lead trainer for police departments, still is involved heavily in all of that. So bringing the perspective of what these agents are going through and what they're dealing with, from just, for the most part, people trying to do their job, and honestly, their lawful constitutional jobs, which is probably what makes all of us most infuriated, that are law-abiding Americans. So let's watch this video real quick, 39 seconds, and then we'll get reacted.
So you can see the protesters here are gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. So in the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking, and Nakima stood up and said her piece, and then the protesters surrounded her. But this is a clandestine mission. I think they found out according to them, this is according to Operation Pull Up, that one of the pastors here is a member of ICE. And so here we go.
I forgot the lead pastor.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
Okay.
And this was, of all people, this was Don Lemon. You guys remember Don Lemon from CNN, I believe it was. For years was this agitator. I mean, you remember 2020, he was, one of the all-stars of the lamestream media, just spewing out garbage every day. And he's gone in with this news crew in this church, where a big bunch of these guys just went in to agitate a church service that was going on. And I mean, I guess let's start with questions. How do you see these tactics in everyday America, and how do churches prepare for this? Because it's one thing if you have like one or two people come in. You have a mob of 50 people come in, and we don't lock church doors. Like, as Christians, we want to be open. We want to be open to people in need. We want to share the gospel with them. But the problem is now you have an angry mob that is hell bent on just destroying that, deterring all of that, because they believe that the pastor who believes in law and order and borders, which is biblical, all of a sudden, they're evil people, and so we must shout them down and disrupt everything. So how should churches deal with that?
Well, I think you got to start off with kind of a mission statement, a philosophy from the church, the pastor, the elders, and it needs to get passed on to everybody else, that this is what we stand for, and this is how we're going to respond. And one thing I learned in almost 3 decades of law enforcement is that criminals, and that's what you are, if you come into a private church with a bunch of people to disrupt the whole church service for no reason, you're trespassing, you're causing a disturbance, disorderly conduct, whatever you want to call it. It's illegal. And one of the things that criminals really respond well to is a unified show of force where everybody there is on the same page doing the same thing. And just standing by anymore is not going to work. And it doesn't mean we go start a big UFC fight, but it means, hey, you people can't stay here. You cannot stay here, yell and scream. And 1 second later, if they haven't left, then everybody in the church is physically making them leave. And if you do not do that, people you give them an inch and they take a mile. And pretty soon you are held hostage. You can't go to your own church and do what you want to do. You are at the mercy of these crazy people that think they can just run and disrupt everything out there. So you have to take action. So whether that action is using physical force, I don't know. I hope it's not. But I'll tell you what, if people like that were to come into my church, I would get a certain amount of people, and we are physically removing you from the church. And if the police want to come and arrest us later, then I guess they're going to have to come and arrest us. But you have to draw a line. People have to know what that line is. And I'm commenting this to John the other day. I'm actually pretty encouraged that when you watch ICE on the news, and every single time that somebody throws a snowball at an ICE agent, what happens to that person? They get chased down. There's 5 or 6 ICE agents running down the street for a mile if they have to. We talk about zero tolerance. They're not going to let anybody get away with anything if they have the manpower. And if they weren't doing that, I promise you it would be 10 times worse if they just let people in the crowd do whatever they wanted to do. And Jacob Fry's like, if ICE just left our town, this will be all over. I'm like, really? Last time I remember there was a riot in Minneapolis after George Floyd, the police left their police department and then they burned the police department down. So if you leave, then it's just the angry mob. They're like, what are we going to do now? There's no ICE and we're angry. What are we going to do? We have to burn the town down.
We're going to look for the next target.
It will get worse if ICE leaves, because then the huge riot starts. When all these paid protesters, other people that join the protest, they're there. They can't wait to see ICE. They want to fight. They want confrontation. ICE leaves, and now what are they going to do? Go home? Nope. It's like getting in a pursuit and chasing somebody, who just robbed or killed somebody. The police like, well, we can't pursue. Do you think the suspect slows down on the way to his hideout?
Nope.
No. They just keep going 120 miles an hour. And if ICE and the police leave, I think the riots would get even worse. They would have to find something to do to keep this momentum going, this anti-ICE momentum going. And it would get crazier than it is right now, would be my guess.
Yeah. And we're going to circle back to that because I got a couple other questions here that's kind of crazy. This is from Matt Tardio in a Facebook post that is still public, link below. Nakima claimed that it was our demonstration that disrupted the city church's services yesterday. Georgia Fort and Nakima Levi Armstrong are both contributors to Democracy Now! Both are civil rights attorneys. According to the public searches, Georgia has limited grassroots involvement with BLM, and Nakima was a BLM spokesperson between 2014 and 2016. So that would have been at the time of the Michael Brown issue, probably, if we're timing that. When Black Lives Matter was 2017, I think. 2017. Okay, so it would have been prior to that, but that was when that organization really broke out. Honestly, I can't tell if I can't tell if that is Georgia in the video link or whoever she is. There's clearly advanced knowledge of the situation. So here is the post talking about friends. Here's a clip of the demonstration this morning in the city's church in St. Paul. Is a pastor at the church and acting field director of the ICE office in St. Paul. So just a little bit of backstory for those of you that don't know. The pastor of this church is involved with the local ICE office and is helping coordinate these ICE raids.
He is an ICE agent working for Homeland Security,
but he's also a pastor.
Yes.
So, and that's why they've targeted him, is because they're using these false narratives and false dichotomies that if you're a Christian, you can't be pro borders. But
we need to unmask everybody. We need to unmask all the agents so we know who they are.
Hey, wait, no.
So
wait, 5 years ago, I was told I had to mask or I couldn't go out in public, right?
But it's our right to go to their church and cause a scene.
Yep. So this is crazy stuff. And they're taking credit for it. So with that in mind, if they're taking credit for it, if they're admitting to crimes online, this is this can be, I mean, this should be able to be at least looked at by law enforcement, I would think, right?
Yes, obviously. And I'm just curious too, how many people, maybe you guys watching can comment, does anybody out there, and it's an honest question, does anybody think that ICE is going too far in how they operate? So how they put together, they get 20, 30, 40 agents, they get geared up, they go to a location to get people who are here illegally, who are been raping kids. like I don't know, if it's just people don't understand what law enforcement has to deal with. It'd be like saying, you know what? I think Delta Force or Navy SEALs or whatever, they look kind of mean, and these Afghans or whoever, they might be kind of scared when the bad guys come with the green eyes and the black rifles. So can we dress nicer, and use less protective gear?
Oh,
to me personally, it's not going too far. And you see the violence because you are faced with violence. And it's just like in ICE, they're cops. They are just cops.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. They are not stormtroopers, even though you might think and associate, well, look at all this gear and rifles and helmets and all this stuff and masks. They look mean and tough. Well, they're not. They're just normal people. They go home.
Yep.
They hang out with their family, their kids, have barbecues, go back to work. And then they have to fight, these American people and these protesters and illegals and everybody else who's joined forces to say, and it's really getting bad coming from mayors like Fry and Tim Walz, and everybody just wants to jump on the bandwagon, and everybody wants to call them the KKK and Gestapo and Nazis, and then the snowball starts rolling. But they're just cops, and I don't think, in my opinion, as a law enforcement officer, like, okay, with a reasonable discussion, do I think their actions and stuff are going too far? No. Not, they're just doing law enforcement stuff. If we rolled video of what American local government SWAT teams look like, just the city of wherever USA, what does their SWAT team look like? It looks just like these people.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the same. Military, law enforcement, federal agents, they all wear the same stuff, the same gear. They do the same jobs. It's not just ICE operating this way in America. It's every specialized law enforcement unit in America that does search warrants, high-risk arrest warrants. It's everybody. So if you want to say ICE is these mean bad guys, you better be prepared to say that your local cops, they're all mean, terrible bad guys. State police are all mean, terrible. Military, they're all mean, terrible people. We all want to support the military, but we're all doing the same. Yep. We're all doing the same job. So. Well,
and that's the important point, is like they're trying to demonize an entire group of people. And Dave and I would both say that, yeah, there are dirtbags in the military. There are dirtbags on police forces. That's not a blanket like, oh yeah, all cops are good, all military people are good. No, that's not the case. However, they are the thin line between us and chaos. The chaos that you see, it's like Dave said earlier, if you were to remove the guardrails of the police, I mean, look at what happens in places like Baltimore when the BLM stuff was going there, and they basically was like, well, we're not responding to calls because of what's going on in that area, because like we're afraid for, our lives or whatever. And they refuse to take these calls. What happens? Does crime go down? Do the community organizers that we always hear the left talking about,
violence interrupters?
Yeah,
that's the latest.
Do they go and talk it out and hug it out and sing Kumbaya around a fireplace and all this stuff? Nope. No, crime goes up, and the innocent people in those areas are the ones that suffer. They're the ones, you want to know who's the most pro police? Are the innocent people that have to live in these neighborhoods and deal with this thuggery and this garbage. And that's what we're seeing. It is. The more that you see these things to ramp up, and I'll just honestly say, I just told Dave on the way back from the range, I'm scared that the body count's going to go up, because now they're doxing these ICE agents. They're trying to find out where their homes are. The next step is probably people in the church for, if their pastor says something about borders or is an ICE agent or something along those lines, then those people are going to be in danger. And these mobs are going to start targeting them at their homes. Well, that's just a few movements, a few bad decisions away from people actually getting shot. whether it be people defending their homes or mobs going in and dragging people through the streets like they did Jacob Lang. Yeah.
And the trend seems to be big cities, right?
Mhm.
Minneapolis, New York City, wherever. They're like, well, that's not going to happen here in my town, small town USA or wherever. And the odds are it's probably not. I mean, this does seem to be a big city thing.
Mhm.
But let's go back to Ferguson, Missouri.
Mhm.
What's the population of Ferguson? It's not 100,000 people.
No.
It's not. It's a suburb of St. Louis, so it's not small town USA, but it's fairly small. And you get one event. So your town of 80,000 people, where you have a shooting of a black unarmed person, all of a sudden you do have an uprising. Then all the paid protesters show up, and you do have this huge crowd, and then it's big time. So it could literally happen. It doesn't mean these protesters are just going to randomly go to your town, but man, we're dealing with stuff all across America every day. I think there's about 1,000-ish police involved shootings a year where the suspect gets killed in the shooting. But I'm curious, and I can't remember last time I looked it up, of how many just shootings where police shoot at somebody or shoot them and the suspect lives.
Exponentially more.
It's 10x.
Yeah.
Easy. And any one of those could turn into a fatality, but you don't hear about it because the guy lived and whatever the reason is. So basically what I'm saying through all this is, even though this seems like a big city thing, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it could never happen here, and I'm just going to drive to work every day in my small town and go to the grocery store, and this won't happen here, it very easily, in a moment, it could start anywhere based on the incident. All it takes is local police, ICE, whoever, for that one thing to happen, and boom, you are the epicenter of this whole thing, and all the national attention comes. So you're like, well, do I prepare for this? Is this mob thing going to happen anywhere near me? Probably not. You just, you don't know. It's like trying to plan for the next car crash you're going to be in. Where's it going to be? I don't know. It could be anywhere. You're not going to make that decision.
Yeah, you can't predict every variable that's going to lead to this.
It's just going to happen. So when we talk about preparedness, this type of thing, first step is honestly believing that it really could happen. And if you are honest about it, and you think, well, are these situations getting worse over the last few years? Yeah, it's getting worse. Media coverage is getting worse. It seems like the snowball effect is happening faster, especially on incidents that aren't even, we think an unarmed black man got shot and killed. That's a typical thing where riots start up. This was a white woman in Minneapolis who got killed. And now we're having, riots start up. So it doesn't have to be your typical. I think the rioters and the protesters, they are looking for anything, and they don't care if it's in their wheelhouse or not.
Nope.
As long as it's anti-police, anti-law enforcement, anti-Trump. If they can roll that in, then that's all they need. And that could be a million things way beyond just shooting an unarmed person.
Yeah. And I think there's another philosophical thing. Jesse put in the comments talking about the financiers, and it was earlier last week or tail into last week. I was listening to a podcast. It was Matt Walsh, and he said that he had his producers infiltrate. So these groups are not showing up by chance. These are organized groups. And I mean, I know most of the people that watch Survival Dispatch know this already, but he had his producers actually infiltrate this Defend the 612 group on Facebook, and that unlocked signal chats, which you guys know, if you're a Guardian, you know what signal chats are, encrypted messaging systems that people can communicate on. And inside of all of those, first of all, they're dumb because they don't vet people that come into these. So anybody can get into it if they just get into the group. And they uncovered all of the coordination that's going on. They are flagging, and we saw videos of a dude that got drug. He was like a news dude, reporter that got drug out of an ICE-looking vehicle. Then he had just been down there the day before and got searched and questioned by this mob. And that's the kind of stuff that they're doing, and they're coordinating. And they're saying, if it gets reported that there's an ICE vehicle, they're supposed to go block it in, and they're supposed to agitate, and they're supposed to do all of these things. And then they actually tracked all of the financing back to the Tides Foundation. Well, that's our good old buddy George Soros organization. So this is being funded by very, very wealthy people whose goal is absolute destruction of our Western civilization. And I'm going to actually, I made this point a couple of weeks ago to some friends. I'm not going to call it Western civilization anymore. I'm going to call it Christian civilization, because that's the real, if you get down to the roots of all this is an assault on our Christian values at its core. And that's why they're going into churches, and that's why they're attacking every structure that God set up in the Bible. And that's what this is all about. That's at its root. But anyways, Dave, I'm going to get fired up if I'm not careful.
No. And, so we got to stand together and figure out, exactly what where the threshold is for you and your family. Like, how far are you willing to go? So the church example, if the crowd comes into the church, what are we going to do? We got 30 people that just came in here with whistles and banging their pots and pans. We're supposed to be nice to people, and not be, mean, whatever that means or whatever. Well, what do? Well, we tell these people you need to leave right now. And if they don't, we are going to make you leave. We ask you, tell you, and then make you. The ATM method was what I was taught from my FTO in law enforcement. Ask, tell, make. Ask them to leave, tell them to leave, and then make them. And you be reasonable. You can grab somebody by the arm and pull them to the front door. It doesn't mean to make them leave, you punch them in the face and then drag them to the door, which is what you might feel like doing. But, it's time to take a stand. Like, how far am I willing to go? I know in my personal life how far I'm willing to go in some of these situations, either with that, or you see, like 10 people rush into the Apple store you're in while you're getting your phone worked on, and they start stealing all the
$40,000 worth of phones into a trash bag.
No,
not
when I'm there.
Exactly.
I might not stop 10 people, but I'm stopping somebody.
Yep. It's
And
going to be a bad day.
You'd be surprised how, and it's not like I think I'm a tough guy that can stop a bunch of, looters in a store, but you'd be surprised that, number one, how many people agree with that. Like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good thing to do. And then once you get involved, how many other good people jump in to help? I'm not saying you might get left in the dust on something like that. For me, I don't care. I am not going to stand for complete and utter lawlessness when I have the ability and capability to do something. Now, if you're a 75-year-old woman with a walker, do we expect you to get involved? No, we don't. But there's millions of us out there, a lot of you watching this channel, that are capable and, have the abilities, the knowledge, the skills to do something about it. And at some point, we got to take a stand, or there's not going to be anything left to stand for.
Yep.
And so, and who knows, we all fear the worst. Like, this could get a lot worse than me just escorting a person out of a church. What if the people that walk in the church, one of them's got a gun? Because whatever state you're in is open carry and people can go wherever. Yep. Yeah.
and that's a good point of like where we should, as a law enforcement officer, and then both of us train people with firearms, concealed carry, and personal protection, as well as situational awareness. We've talked about that ad nauseum, and it seems like we could continue to talk about it until we probably fall over at the end of our lives. But people need to be aware that this is stuff that's it's kind of basic stuff. It's very basic stuff, but it's stuff that everybody needs to be aware of for your own protection, your own livelihood, and the protection of your family. And especially those that are going to churches on Sundays that are now appearing to be the start of targeting. And we'll get into some other videos here, but for those people in the churches, and then for churches, let's talk about both of those individually. For people that are, everyday Americans that want to, they're not out looking for violence. They're not out looking to loot or to do stupid stuff like, try and run over cops or any of that kind of stuff. They just want to go to their jobs. They just want to enjoy their lives and raise their kids and have a little bit of something to enjoy. And I know that time has kind of passed in a lot of ways, but for those people, for the normie norms, how do they prepare for this? I mean, how do they, when they see it, what's the first step of preparing for this so that they can actually make it through safely?
Well-rounded approach here. And your first thing is your mindset. Like, I'm not going to allow anything bad happen to me or my family and my friends, and my community, if I can help it. And so, well, that's a big statement to make. I'm not letting anything happen. I'm going to defend myself. I carry a gun to defend. Well, that means you might have to shoot somebody if it's a deadly force situation. So you need to be practicing with a firearm. You need to be practicing with, your physical tactics. Like, does that mean I go sign up for martial arts somewhere? Well, I don't know. Maybe you need to have some of that in your back pocket. You need to talk to, one of the biggest things is just making sure your community that you're with, whether it's your church security team that you work with, that you're just basically on the same page. You don't have to all be Bruce Lee to handle a situation like that. You just have to be together and unified. It's like, a bunch of ants could carry an elephant out of somewhere if they were all together on the same page. So being like-minded with people, it builds confidence. The unity allows you to make decisions all the same time, and who's going to do what, and you've already talked about it before. So getting together with your group, your family, and deciding like, hey, what's too much for us? If we are at the store, if we're in a restaurant and 100 people come in, maybe if you're at a restaurant, okay, maybe leaving is a good option. Leaving is always a good option.
Yeah.
It's great. If you're in a public place and it's sketchy, it's just like going to the gas station on the bad side of town and you see 10 sketchy dudes walk in. Probably don't want to just stick around and be like, I have the right to stay in this gas. Like, yeah, that'd be great, but maybe the smart thing would be for me to just leave. But if you're in a position of authority with your church, or you're in a position of authority with your family, you're in charge of your family's safety. You can't leave them. So there are times when maybe you can't leave.
Yeah.
So
there are times when you have to say, no, you move. And that's the reality. And I think that what you have to do, and this is all a part of mindset type stuff, is you need to think through this stuff first. You need to talk through it. And really, honestly, just a quick shout out to some of the new stuff that we're doing with Righteous Savages. We've got a little event that we hold at the range once a month, where we get together on a Friday night with like-minded individuals and we shoot and we train together. And that may be something that may need to happen in more than just our area and our region, because I think that there may be a time where you're going to see large groups of agitators, and it may take, as Dave said, a large group to dispel them. And I'm not talking about strapping on your, level 4 plates and, donning your AR-15 and going out, but there may be a moment where you need more than just yourself against a mob. And I'm not condoning violence at all, but if violence comes to you and there's no way of escape, then you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared to meet that with more destructive force than what it comes at.
I think one of the greatest ways to get prepared for this stuff is being connected. So get connected through Survival Dispatch, through whatever news source that gives you reliable news, your chat communities, whether it's Telegram or Signal or whatever the case is on that stuff. Being connected so you can get up-to-date information. In law enforcement, we have a lot of apps that give us information about school shootings and active shooters. So anytime there's an active shooter situation in the country, I get a text message saying, hey, active shooter at such and such school. Like, that's good information. So that even if I'm off duty or whatever, then I've got that info. So do not neglect the communication side of being able to know. You don't want to be driving to the airport in your big city and not know that there's a huge riot going on where the interstate is blocked and you are not going to be able to turn around. That would be wonderful information to have. So a lot of us, I'm 54 years old. I don't like being connected to my phone so much and having to rely on email and text and all this stuff all the time. But it's 2026.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those pieces of technology that you would have to embrace so that you can stay aware of what's going on. We don't want to just be mindless about what's happening out there. And so I think staying connected, having good sources of information, whether it's your group, Discord, you name it, there's a million ways to do that. Definitely search and seek those out.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's important. Let's get back to some videos here. I'm gonna share here, and this is still on this same stuff. This is in regards to the Renee Good situation, and I'll pull this up real quick. Let me share it. Back to here. There we go. Sorry, I'm working on one screen. I'm used to my home studio that has 4. So
Shut these streets down. Again. Make the city pay. Again. And again. They was going about losing money when George Floyd died. We as a people can cause them lose more money now. If we don't stand together, we're going to fall. Together we stand, divided we fall. We as a community got to stop talking and do the work. We cannot wait till somebody die again to do the work. ICE is a demon. They are not human beings. They are killers. They're killing on top.
I don't.
I'm still shocked.
I don't know.
Shocked and all.
That is something.
If I was a local law enforcement person, I would go arrest her.
Yeah,
And here's the reason.
that's inciting violence.
If you can't yell fire in a crowded building, can you yell, go burn the town down?
Think about this.
I mean,
Think about this. It just popped into my mind. She's not concerned with costing the city money. What does that tell you? That she doesn't pay taxes, that she doesn't contribute to the freaking society that she lives in, that she is willing so quickly to destroy. You know, we live in a community that we want to see built up. We want to see improve, and we see our communities improve as we get good leadership and good mayors and all this stuff. These people are literally saying, cost them more, burn it down, blah, 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 blah. What?
They're demons. They're not even humans.
They're not humans. They're demons. They're killers. Well, to somebody who hasn't, somebody that can't critically think, or somebody that hasn't educated themselves, somebody like maybe a Renee Good that doesn't really even know why she's doing all of the crap that she does. And oh, wow, she did something stupid. A series of stupid events led to her being shot. I'm sorry. It's a tragedy, and it's sad that somebody had to lose their life, but you also put yourself in that situation. And these people are putting themselves in more dangerous situation and demonizing our law enforcement that are carrying out constitutional laws. This is not outside of the pale of the Constitution. This is the purview of the President of the United States. And it is his right for the Supreme Court recently that he can deport, that he can get rid of these people.
Yeah. If you think it's not a big deal to where people, mainstream media, whoever get on TV and just spew their opinions about this stuff that's wrong, I guess not a big deal. They can say what they want. I mean, that lady she learned those talking points from somebody. She heard somebody else say those things.
Yep.
And now she's passing them. You know, in law enforcement training, we hear this term a lot, knowledge transfer. Right? Yep. And they're just transferring that garbage from one person to the next. They all think it's something they need to repeat to get their crowd riled up. Then they show it on the news and everybody hears it, and it's on Facebook or the internet, and everybody hears it and everybody keeps repeating it. And now that's what we're up against. And it's like, no wonder why people want to go shoot ICE agents, because they honestly do think they are evil devils walking around like stormtroopers, just trying to kill people for no reason.
Great comment, Stuart. Renee Good, it was a learning opportunity, but the left is not onboarding. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's incredible to me that people, and I mean even people that I know personally that see that as such a murderous act by the police, and it's like no. I mean, how many stops have you been involved in where you have multiple police officers and you're having to get somebody out of the car for whatever reason? I mean, that's a pretty common act or common thing for law enforcement.
Yeah. And
she was actually specifically barricading the street and obstructing an action that was ongoing, and they were trying to remove her from that. She refused to, so they eventually said, okay, you're going to get out of the car. We're going to detain you. And we've seen this. And that doesn't mean she's going to jail forever. That means she's probably going to get detained for a few minutes. You're going to find out who she is, why she's there, and then they're probably going to let her go. but she chose to make a lot of bad decisions to get shot. And I'm afraid that this is going to happen more and more.
Is there more stuff you want to talk about here? Or is we could talk about Renee Good. If you wanted to.
I'm not. Well, no. Let's
We'll come back to
continue
that.
on with the church stuff. And I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent there. So this is our lovely Don Lemon, Lemon.
Lululemon.
Lululemon, and his thoughts on the MAGA administration. Here we go.
MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true. So let me just make it clear, because it's a assistant attorney general. I don't know. Gosh, what's her name? Something Hammett, Dillon, or whatever. So I had no affiliation to that organization. I didn't even know they were going to this church until we followed them there. We were there chronicling protests. Once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism, which was report on it and talk to the people who were involved, which included the pastor, members of the church, and members of the organization. That's it. It's called journalism. First Amendment, all that stuff. For all of you people who believe in the First Amendment, absolutist, there you go. So why don't you talk to the actual person who is in charge of the organization and whose idea it was to have the protest at the church before you start blaming me for stuff for which you have no idea.
Oh, Don Lemon.
So a mob is going into a church, but we're going to follow them in there. We didn't know about it, but we're going to follow them in there and record it in anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's journalism, and the church is open to the public or whatever.
Yep. And
I mean, the good test for whether this is okay or not is reverse the roles. What if this were a bunch of white people going into a mosque
or a black church
to disrupt the service, and some white journalists follow them in there to record it all? Would all that be okay? Would that be called First Amendment right to just protest and record? It's the exact same thing. Right?
Oh, we would be Nazis, and we would be,
And it would be ridiculous.
Yeah, because it is ridiculous.
I mean, of all the most sacred places in America, you should be able to go in peace is your own denomination church.
Yeah.
To do your own praise, worship, prayer, whatever you want to do.
Yep.
And to think that, no, anybody can come in there and cause a protest. No. And I would say, and this is where, like with church security, we see a lot of times members of the church are the security team, and it's like they don't know what to do. All they know is that if some dude comes to the front door with an AK, they can shoot him. But this is like the nuance of church security, and how do we handle these people? Like you need to know what to do. You need some people who've been trained with, protests or riots, former, current law enforcement, whatever. People who just dealt with crowds and mobs and know the law and know people's rights and can be there in person to help direct the rest of the team through a difficult situation like that. But to say, it's just our right to go in and cause a disturbance and to record it and put it on the news.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's insane. It's just the definition of insane.
Okay, so here's a pastor demands face axe charges after Don Lemon and the anti-ICE rioters stormed into the Minnesota church. I demand that the DOJ investigate what took place in Minneapolis, arrest them accordingly, and you must protect religious liberty in this country. Let's watch this. About a minute 25. We may not watch the whole thing, but then we'll comment on it.
Today in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a group of activists led by Don Lemon stormed a Baptist church by the name of Cities Church during their worship time. They were screaming and chanting, disrupting the singing and the preaching because they suspected an ICE officer may attend the church. This is a violation of what is known as the FACE Act. And not only do we condemn this act, but tonight I want to demand that the Department of Justice investigate what took place in Minneapolis, apprehend those who broke the law, and arrest them accordingly. We must protect religious liberty in this country. As people meet to worship God, they have been given legally the right to enter, to worship, and to leave their place of worship.
Mhm.
The Lord Jesus said, in the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. I have preached for many years that there will come a time when we'll find out who are Christians by label and by convenience, and who are Christians by conviction.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, let me read to you the FACE Act, all right? The Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. So it's primarily geared to protect people who are going for an abortion from harassment from people who don't want them to have an abortion. So the FACE Act was passed in the 90s by Bill Clinton that says, hey, if you're going to go get an abortion, you shouldn't have to get harassed on the way in. So totally different topic. But also in that same act, all right, the law says it's illegal to interfere or attempt to injure, intimidate, or interfere with any person who is exercising or trying to exercise their First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship.
Mhm.
All right, you're trying to intimidate or interfere. That's pretty simple. The elements of the offense are there. They've been met. I
Mhm.
would absolutely, and this is what needs to happen without delay. Those people need to go get arrested. Everyone, if you want to sit behind a computer and ID all the J6ers who went in there and go arrest them, then you can sit behind a computer and ID all of these people and go arrest all of them without a doubt.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's probably most infuriating for us is that we saw 1,500 plus people get arrested through all of those shady dealings of the Biden administration, and we haven't seen anybody be arrested for these kinds of things or being behind this kind of stuff, because the reality is they can find it. They can find out exactly who is behind this. If Matt Walsh's producer can follow the money trail, then the DOJ can as well. And we need the DOJ, and we need to put that's one thing that we have to do is we have to apply pressure to say, listen, as this pastor said, hey, you need to prosecute, as Dave was talking about earlier, if there are not consequences and repercussions for these things, if you do not feel, my daddy was one of those that if you got out of line, you got a whooping. It's different time, it seems like, than now. But you know what I always thought about when I did something stupid? Oh crap, I don't want dad to find out, because I knew I was going to get what I deserved, probably deserved a lot more than I got. But that's a simple analogy, but it's the truth. If your children don't fear that when they get out of line, don't fear the consequences, whatever they may be. Hey, you're no screens, no this, no that. Then they're going to continue to push the line. They're going to continue to walk over the line. It's the same thing with these. You have to meet this, and I hope that we can meet it on the legal terms before more violence ensues, because that's the only answer that's going to happen.
That's everybody's fear, and we really don't know. We try to encourage people to do the right thing and team up and be prepared and all that, but we really don't know how this is going to pan out. And my fear is that, all right, huge military force, Insurrection Act, military goes in to quell the disturbances. Well, we've seen the snowball rolling on the crazy people side, and 75 million people have voted for Kamala Harris. That's a lot of people in this country, potentially. It's a small percentage, obviously, on either side of people that get, really radical. But man, it could be it could end up being a big time, use of force by the government to stop the violence, and then a big show of force on the side of lawlessness. You could see that. So now I agree with John totally. You got to put the hammer down. If you're breaking the law, of course. And we are, I think sometimes we get labeled as extremists, but if we were honest and said, let's do the reasonable thing. I'll tell you what, anybody who wants to protest anything in the world, how about this? Tell me if this sounds crazy. Protest legally.
Yeah. There is a legal means for protesting. In fact, there was a guy that posted a video.
I know it's shocking.
Yeah. There's a guy that posted a video that has protested for like 30 years, various different things, activist guy. And he said, I'm going to say something that a lot of people that I know aren't going to like, but he's like, you know why I've never gotten shot? You know why I've been detained or I've been moved out of a protest area? He's like, because I use what we have in this country when I protest.
And it's the law enforcement that protects the protesters. Yeah. If you remember back, it was, I don't know how long after George Floyd, but the BLM riots are going crazy in Dallas, Texas. They decided BLM was going to have a protest. So somehow they got permission, whatever, to march down the street, parade style, and maybe just the police were like, well, they're in the road, whatever. And the police basically escorted them during this protest. And what did they get in thanks?
Four of them got shot.
Five Dallas police officers got shot and killed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Protecting the protesters. That's how jacked up this is. Not only are we letting you do illegal stuff, like we protect you doing illegal stuff. And God forbid you decided to do a legal protest. Like, hey, why don't everybody show up at the city park at noon for a protest rally? And we call the police in advance, say, hey, we're going to have 5,000 people down here. Can we have some extra patrols, some police protection? Yeah, we'll send it there. Perfect. That way the other side can't do bad things to you. And that's how you do protests. You don't protest by doing illegal stuff. And here's a list of illegal things you shouldn't do. Stand in the roadway, block traffic, break stuff, turn over cars, throw things at police, shoot at police. Just a small list of a couple things. Block the road with your car. Or here's the biggest thing that you shouldn't do. When the police tell you to do something, you ignore their commands, because it's illegal to ignore the commands of a police officer. Hey, you're under arrest, get out of the car. Nah, you know what? I think I'm just going to drive home.
Yep.
Well, this is a problem. This is putting you in extremely dangerous
You already crossed the line that allowed you just to go home. They would have let you go home 5 minutes ago. They were trying to get you to go home. You refused. And then when the pressure gets put on, I'm going to go home. Oops, I hit a cop.
So the solution is there already. The solution isn't abolish ICE.
No.
Okay. I guess if we want to just have, illegals running wild and crazy, criminals running wild, if we want to have cheaters at the very basic level, if you came into this country illegally, you are a cheater and you're taking money away from Americans who live here already at the very minimalist level.
Yep.
And we can't stand for that. We got to do something about that. So no, we can't. I always thought this too, like the South Park episode where the police get berated and made fun of, and all of a sudden they're quit and killing themselves. And there's not any police around. What happens? The town goes to holy hell.
Yep.
And it's bums and homelessness and lawlessness, and the town is burning down. And I almost thought this. I wonder how much money. I actually figured it out. Let's say there's 4,000 Minneapolis police officers. I'm sorry, not 4,000. I think Minneapolis has less than 1,000 cops. Well, let's say the federal government decided, you know what, we're going to pay your salary and your insurance for 3 years. Here's $300,000 to quit your job. We're going to pay every cop in Minneapolis $300,000 to not be a police officer anymore. Hey, Minneapolis, guess what? You don't have cops. ICE is leaving. All the police are leaving. That way, you're not being invaded by the Gestapo. See you later. Call us in about 5 minutes and tell us what your city looks like. It's going to be nuclear meltdown. And I almost wish to God something like that would happen. Let's figure it out. In the drug world, when we were drug agents and somebody had a question about a snitch or a confidential informant, like, I wonder if this guy's telling the truth. Let's prove him up. Hey, here's a phone. Call the drug dealer. Put him on speakerphone. Let's see if you really can buy 5 pounds of meth from this guy. All right, we prove him up. Well, let's prove this one up. Let's prove it up. See if all the cops, all the evil demons in your town, that's the solution. Let's do it. Hey, you hate the police so bad? You hate law enforcement? Let's do it. Let's get them all out. No more cops in Minneapolis at all. And the only downside is that there are really a lot of good people in Minneapolis who probably live there forever, and they don't want the town burning down.
Yep.
So we can't pay them to leave. But man, I wish if you're somebody that's like, yep, I don't like cops and ICE. It's almost like Escape from New York, Kurt Russell. Let's put you in a place where there's no cops. You want it so bad.
There you go.
Let's put you there.
Anarchy.
And see what happens.
Yep. Anarchists love anarchy until they have to live in it, and then they don't like it so much.
Man, come on, let's go. We'll help you get there.
Well, and that's the reality is like law and order is the only way that we have a country, the only way that we have peaceful towns that we can raise children in. I mean, do we want our country to be war-torn Somalia or something like that? I mean, it's crazy, but that's what the left seems to want. That's what all of these crazies seem to want, or at least the people that are paying them want. And they're just dumb enough to go along with it. And we are looking at between what we found out about what's going on with the Somalian embezzlement scheme that's funneled up billions of dollars of taxpayer money that should have been, you want to know how housing prices get reduced? Well, if we get the people that don't need to be here out of this country, all of a sudden there's going to be a lot more houses. The prices are probably going to go down if we're not spending taxpayer dollars or letting them funnel them off. And I know it's somewhat of a different subject, but it all goes to the same root, the same thing that they're targeting. They want to destroy our country. They want to destroy our faith. They want all of this stuff abolished because they hate it. And it's crazy to say that, but they hate what we stand for. And that's also not me saying that we need to go, because the Bible's very clear that we're supposed to love our enemies. We're supposed to love those who hate us. And that's hard sometimes, but that doesn't give us, that doesn't mean that we have to just be nice, that we just have to be these accepting pacifists. And that's not what it says either.
Yeah, to me, here's a good example. Like Rob Reiner and his wife got killed. Right?
Yep.
Trump came out and is like, yeah, Rob Reiner hated me and I didn't like him. And I thought, you know what, this would have been a good opportunity. When we talk about Trump and what people like and don't like, this is the one thing I think that people are like, I don't know. Here's what I would have said as president. You know what? Rob Reiner hated my guts. Rob Reiner wanted me arrested and put in jail forever. And you know what? That's cool. He can believe what he wants to. But man, he made some good movies.
Yeah.
He made you saying something nice about somebody that is your enemy that doesn't agree with you, man, it goes a long way. Spinal Tap. Holy cow. We talk about some Rob Reiner movies. Stand By Me. We could go on and on. The dude made some killer American classic movies. So you could compliment him on that. Like, you know what? We did not like each other. It wasn't, but man, he really contributed to American society a lot. And he was beloved by everybody that was ever a director or in the film industry. Like, don't think he was, pedophile as far as I know. Like, seems like probably a really good guy with his family. We just didn't get along. So that's one way I think we can turn this is, there could be 1 million people, these protesters, whatever, that you don't agree with. The lady called the ICE people demons. If I were to get on the news and talk about her, I'll be like, you know what? She probably is a really awesome grandma, whatever. I don't know. Compliment somebody. It's like, putting burning coals in their lap on their head, to say something nice about somebody when actually they're against you. So I always look for those opportunities I wish people would take. It's not a make or break for me at all, but I think that's one thing we can do.
Yeah.
Personally, on a personal level with our family, friends, coworkers, whatever, to try and slowly make a difference here. But in the short term, stuff like that is going to get people killed.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It's crazy because John just put in Psalm 144:1. I think Dave actually has it on his wristband that he's wearing. It's one of our favorite verses in the Bible. Of, blessed be the Lord, my strength, that teaches my hands to make war and my fingers to fight. And that is something we live by because we're always training for the day that we hope never comes. And that's kind of bringing this back around full circle to how we get prepared for this, because
there's nothing that says you just lay down.
Exactly. And that is a false narrative that a lot of really, really soft-headed preachers and people on the internet want to push. And some people want to push it because they think we can't defend that. But no, I mean, if that's the case, the entire Old Testament is anti-God, because he sent the Israelites to war a heck of a lot. And that doesn't, what it means is that we live in peace with the people that we can, as long as it's humanly possible. And it looks like that it may be coming very quickly that it's not necessarily humanly possible. And we live by the laws of our lands, and we live by the established order of government, because that's what God structured. But we don't allow chaos and lawlessness. The Bible actually refers to Satan commonly multiple times as the lawless one. So if you're seeing lawlessness in your community, know that that's not a structure of justice or anything to do. If somebody is standing up and positing scripture and saying it's okay to go riot and saying it's okay to go do these crazy lawless things, then they haven't read the book. And we have to stand up against that, and we have to be willing to take it to whatever level that we have to take it to get the lawlessness, to make the lawlessness go away.
We have to be rounded, not just in our preparedness, but in our faith, our beliefs. We always say we need to be 100% guardian and 100% warrior all together, not half and half. You need to be able to pull off both of those things 100%. And, forgiveness for people that have wronged you is a big part of that. Forgiveness is the central theme of Christianity. If somebody's done something bad to you and you're like, I will never, ever forgive that person, this is something that I would suggest you really have some strong moments of prayer with God about. Because in the Bible, one of the apostles asked Jesus, how many times do I forgive, somebody who sinned against me? 7 times? And he said, no, 70 times 7, which was a reference back to Genesis in the Old Testament with Lamech. He wanted to avenge the people that were done wrong against him. And he said he was going to avenge them 77 times. Then in the New Testament, Jesus is like, no, forgive them 70 times 7. Like with the same fervor that you want to avenge your enemies and the people that wronged you, that fervor is how hard you forgive people. And that's a command from Jesus himself. And God said, I will know how much you love me by how you obey my commands. So this is a big deal. It's not, it doesn't mean we're all wussies and we lay down and, everybody's forgiven and everybody's wronged us and we'll do whatever and we'll just lay down. Jesus, Luke 12:49 says, I did not come to bring peace,
but a sword.
But I came to bring fire, and how I wish it was kindled. Man, that's a big statement. Like Jesus Christ, hey, peace, brother. Peace.
Yeah.
Remember
when he saw the lawlessness in the temple? He went out and fashioned a whip and beat people up. I mean, we're not talking about a pacifist. We're not talking about somebody that just walked through and just, oh yes. And no, he called people out when they were in sin. When he would do a miracle, he would just call people out, and we have to call out sin too. Like that's it. And this is, and I didn't want this to actually get to be a sermon tonight, but it's really what we believe. It is a common thing, and we are called to do this thing, and we are called to call out sin. And this lawlessness is sinful because it's destroying people's lives, it's taking lives, and these law enforcement officers are obeying the law. They are actually lawful, and they are actually doing the work of the law, and the lawless people are doing the work of the enemy. And that is the problem that we're running into, and that is really the crux of this whole thing. It's good versus evil, and you can boil almost everything in politics and life down to those things, because at the root of them is always good or evil. Which team are you on? And yeah, we have to pray, and we have to hope that something turns around. First, we hope that there's a heart change in these people, but then we have to pray for protection of ourselves and our communities, and that if we are met with a terrible decision that we have to make.
So we've got a company called Righteous Savages, and what does that possibly mean? How those two things live together, that phrase. Righteous just means doing the right thing. And if you need to do the right thing to stop somebody from hurting you or your family, you need to do it savagely and with full force. In law enforcement, we talk about using force, whether it's deadly force, physical control tactics, whatever it is. It's not, at 40%. Like, we're going to use the least amount of force first and then work our way up. It's 100% of what you're legally, ethically, morally allowed to do. 100%. That's what you're going to do.
And that swift action is a lot of times what stops it from snowballing into more. Because if you just meet it with something little, like, oh, you're that weak, oh, I'm going to push harder now. But if you meet my dad, and I'm going into a different analogy here, but my dad, when I was a kid, I was being bullied by a kid. And my dad told me the advice that I was surprised. My dad, a Pentecostal pastor, and not a real violent man. My dad was a very, meek and mild man, very different from me. But he told me, he's like, the next time that guy messes with you, that kid messes with you, I want you to punch him as hard as you can in the nose. And whatever
Your dad
happens,
and my dad must have known each other because I got the same thought.
It's like punch him as hard as you can in the nose. And it was a week later, and this kid was messing with me, and I punched him, and he had a bloody nose. And my dad had to go talk to my teacher and all this stuff. My dad backed me up, and you know what? I learned two valuable lessons. That is that one. Righteous violence is not a bad thing. It stops a lot of bad things. And meeting something with that force stops it. That bully never touched me, never said another word to me, left me alone the rest of my life.
Attitude adjusted.
Yes. And it was like, okay, I can't roll over this person. Well, this is bully tactics. This church stuff is bully tactics. And so sometimes you have to punch the bully in the face, in the nose. And when that happens, they're like, oh, wow, okay. I guess I can't do this. I can't roll over these people. And that's what we mean by when you react savagely. Where the maximum amount that you can at the time, morally, ethically, and
So I got a little phrase I use in my law enforcement training classes is this: use the amount of force that you are legally, morally, and ethically authorized to use. So whatever level that is, at the moment you're authorized to use it. At the moment somebody crosses the line and you're allowed to grab them by the arm and walk them out, or worse, at the moment that happens is when you react. And all of a sudden, people aren't ready. These people walking in blowing whistles, they're not ready to be swarmed and drug out of the church. Like, oh, we have the right to be here. This is open to the public and we can do whatever. They're not expecting to be drug out of the church. That needs to happen. And let's see what that group does at the next church after the first church does it. And then everybody else is like, oh, now we know what we can do and we're going to react the same way. People don't continue that type of behavior.
Well, and showing courage and showing that decisive action is also contagious. So if you see people acting with courage, then more people are determined to act with courage. And that's really the thing of, like, and we're going to wrap up here in a couple minutes, but that's the thing that I think that each and every one of us, if you are involved in a local church in your area, as we said, this could happen anywhere, because you don't know when the next, Michael Brown situation is going to happen at a convenience store in a small town, because it could happen anywhere. And these people, the organizations behind them, are ready to dump millions of dollars to bring people in for a sideshow, because that's what it is. And because of that, we need to go back to our churches and we need to talk to our security teams and say, hey, what if this happens? There are some things that need to be discussed of how we're going to do this, because the one thing you don't want to get involved is in a brawl. But if you decisively act on this stuff, and you have your church security team ready, then it's going to be handled in a much better way than if you don't have a plan. Chris always says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah. I'm really encouraged too, just by watching the comments of everybody be involved watching. First, we appreciate you sticking around and watching this stuff, and we hope you're encouraged by it. Some of the stuff you've heard us talk about before, so this might not be brand new info, but we're glad you're part of the community. We're glad you're involved, supporting each other. Most of the comments on here are people commenting to each other, not to us. It's like, hey man, thanks, that's great stuff. And so it's just being part of this community. And man, I'm really encouraged by you guys watching and realizing that, we're just not two dudes or a handful of guys doing this on our own and we're hoping other people might think like we do. It's like, man, there are really thousands of people out there. I think there is this base of law-abiding citizens that love America. I want to keep this place like it's supposed to be. Like there's this foundation out there ready to take action if we need to. And people have been training, people have been getting ready, for just small things in your town, or God forbid, things that could happen even worse nationwide. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm glad to see everybody out there being involved, paying attention, and offering feedback and information to us. We don't know everything there is to know, about.
Speak for yourself. I'm just
okay. I don't know everything there is out there. This is whether it's doing this or doing classes in person with people in training. Like, man, half the class is the transfer of knowledge coming to me and to us, and so we're soaking it up from you guys just as much as we think and our hope that we can provide you information and just some encouragement moving forward what's going on. So being informed, and seek out, this stuff. There's a lot of people on the internet putting out their opinions about Minneapolis and riots and Renee Good, and just be careful. And all I'm saying is just look at all the information, look for trusted sources of info that have been involved in these type of things before, like the whole Renee Good, the whole shooting scenario. And we could do a 5-hour podcast on just my opinions of that situation. And the short version is I do believe that officer was justified in doing what he did. Why is a whole long other story that nobody's talking about.
There's the nuance.
Yeah, there is. And so maybe that's for another day, but man, I've got a lot of info on that I would like to share.
Well, and maybe now's a good time, since you gave me a segue there. We're actually going to start our own live stream. It's going to be just kind of scheduled more on the tail end of after Survival Dispatch nightly live stream. We're doing it once a week to start out. We're going to try this live streaming thing for Righteous Savages as well. And hope you guys will join us. We're going to hopefully start that next Thursday night. And we're going to talk about these kinds of things and be a little bit more open with our faith and how we're using that to change lives in our communities and how we can build that communities. And one of the series that we're launching next week as well is called The Modern Day Minuteman. And if you guys are familiar with history, that is, the men that stood up to tyranny of the British Empire that gave us this nation. And they were everyday people. There were people that were ready at a moment's notice. 1 minute basically was the theme. And they were ready to take decisive action up to and including standing up to tyranny with guns. And that there's tons of levels to that. But that is something that we are launching soon. Next week, and look for that on our YouTube channel, and then go over to our Substack. We'll be posting stuff over there. If you guys haven't already joined our Substack, it's free to do, and you can see our posts and then give us a little bit of support there. But we're kind of ramping up our stuff going forward, because I think the time is now for us to let our voices be heard, let our experiences and our beliefs be shown out, because we're supposed to be lights in a dark world. And if we're hiding that light, then we're not doing God's work. I wanted to do an answer to this, but you guys go over and sign up for that. Go over to our YouTube and our Substack as well. We're linked in because I post stuff for Survival Dispatch with ThreatWire and everything else. That is also going forward much more frequently as well, starting next week as well. So, but I want to give Dave a chance. I'm going to answer this real quick, and then I'm going to give Dave a chance to answer it as well. Mike actually asked, have body-worn cams been a net positive or a negative in our opinion?
I'd say 100% net positive. Now, the initial thought is, oh no, somebody's going to use this camera to call me out on me doing something I wasn't supposed to do or whatever. But it's absolutely 100%. I'm a big fan. I wish a lot more professions would wear body cameras. Like, for instance, my doctor. If my doctor's going to do a surgery and take some organ out of my body, let's make him wear a body cam.
Yep.
You know what they would do? They would flip out.
Yep.
Like, no way, because you know what the malpractice rate in America is? It's like 200,000 people a year die from medical malpractice, and about 20 people a year die from the police shooting an unarmed person. And about 19 of those, it was still a justified shooting. So body cams, I was always a huge fan. I love just having my work recorded anyway. It's like most cops like the action, like the pursuits, like the foot chases, whatever. And also most cops would like, you know what, that'd be really cool to have that on video to watch again. And so, you know, and also it's somebody looking over your shoulder, you know, you're being recorded. So it encourages cops to do the right thing if they were on the fence or not. So it's oversight for police. Yes. It's also, here's something interesting. I wonder why Renee Good's girlfriend has not released her cell phone video that she took.
Her
all
body cam footage?
Yeah, essentially her body cam. That would be really, I think that would be really cool. But she hasn't. Probably, you know, if the police didn't release the body cam footage of a shooting, the riots would erupt in the street. We demand to have it. Well, if this was such a horrible thing that happened and Renee Good was such an angel, and I'm not saying she was a bad person, but like there's a lot more to the story, and what's recorded on that lady's phone is part of that story. So that would be interesting. So short answer is yes, I think body cams have been a huge net positive, because it seems like half our job was people coming in to complain on cops for no reason. There are some cops that are buttholes that need to be complained on, just period. But most cops get complained on because they got arrested for no reason. Oh, we got you on video here beating up your girlfriend. Well, I know, but you know, so the body cameras clear up a lot of the false claims. Unfortunately, the people who falsely claim bad stuff against the police don't get arrested. It's just a free pass. And so that's a whole other story. But I'm a big fan of body cams. I wish I would have had them my whole career.
Well, I also think about this, you know, and I could use another example outside of police work. Think of the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting. How many cameras captured that live?
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. Because if there had not been video evidence, do you realize what the narrative would have been? It would have been the complete opposite, and that guy would probably be in jail now. Like, because the video evidence that when you see the one angle that was really popular at the beginning, it doesn't really look like the cop got hit. There's different angles. And then when you saw the body cam, you could hear the impact. You could hear him go, oh, you know, and react to that. And then you saw another angle where he got pushed by the car. And that really, even in the court of public opinion, that was like, oh, yeah, he got hit. That's kind of crazy. So I think that video evidence, if you're doing the right thing, then video evidence is your saving grace in a lot of ways. And how many cops have been proven that they did the right thing, and how many bad cops have been proven that they did the wrong thing with body cam footage? Oversight is 100%.
It's weird,
needed.
and also just the whole country. It's kind of spooky on one side because video cameras, it's like London or something. Like even the city I work at, it's like every street corner has a video camera.
Oh yeah, you go into the video.
There are
small town Carbondale. It's like
there's license plate readers on every corner. I mean, if you were doing something sketchy, and it's helped law enforcement solve so many crimes. On one side, you're thinking like 1984, Big Brother, and we know where you're at all times. Well, guess what? You have a cell phone in your pocket.
You're tracked.
Everybody knows where you are anyway. It's not the cameras in your town. It's not the license plate readers that are going to get you. It's your stupid phone that's going to get you. And, you know, but it is, even saying that, it is a little creepy. Like, and the next thing you're going to see all over the place in the next 10 years is drones. I think you're going to see drones flying all over for law enforcement purposes. And, you know, there's a lot of good to that, but there's a lot of lot of creepiness to that as well. I just keep thinking of Terminator, you know, and drones flying over, you know, waiting to shoot people. All day long.
Thank you guys so much for joining tonight. And we saw some awesome comments. It was awesome. Darty, always appreciate your comments, bud. And yes, I am 37 pounds down and slimming out. Sometimes I see myself on video. I'm like, who is that guy? But so I appreciate the kind words. Half the man I was. Yeah. And remember to pray for each other and keep this community going. I love this community, and it's always an honor when Chris asks me and gives me the opportunity to host. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you aren't signed up for the Guardian membership, go over to survivaldispatch.news. You get all of those really awesome perks, and that intel, those intel channels are just buzzing. I take a couple of days off, and there's like a couple thousand messages that I haven't read. It's awesome, and that community is thriving, and I really, really appreciate that. I know that we have a lot of good, God-fearing American patriots that are still in this fight and still want to be engaged with the truth. So thank you very much.
And don't tell Chris we were an hour late tonight.
Yeah. I kind of told him that, but
I think he probably knows. But
he monitors. It's
just
funny.
tell him it was great.
Yeah.
The anticipation was killing us.
Yeah. We were just doing that for, the anticipation aspect of it, but
Appreciate it.
really, really, really love you guys. And don't forget, as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already checked out our stuff, Righteous Savages, we're on YouTube. We have our website. We're going to release our 2026 training schedule here before too long. And we have a lot of things in the hopper that are coming out very soon. We're here at SHOT Show. We're meeting some awesome people, and there's a lot of things that we're working on. And we hope that you guys will tune in for our stuff. Our live shows going live soon. So if you follow me on X, you'll see those posts. And I'll probably post in the Survival Dispatch chats too. Because we're going to try not to interfere with anything SDN does, but we want to allow our voices, and it'll be a little bit different format, more conversational, and but it's just a way for us to express what we're all about, and we hope you guys will join that community as well. Until tomorrow night, Chris will be back with some awesome guests. We're here at SHOT Show, and he's got some really cool things cooking up. So we'll see you guys then, and I might pop in later on in the week as well as a guest, so we'll see what happens. But until next time, don't forget to stay safe and stay prepared. Remember, God wins in the end, and God bless America. We'll see you guys.
Thanks.
Do you ever feel it? That something is wrong with the world, like a splinter in your mind? The Matrix isn't fiction. It's real. A prison built not of walls, but of lies. I saw it young. Hollywood dreams, silicon toys, news anchors with plastic smiles. All tools. Tools to shape perception, to cage thought. Behind the curtain, puppet masters move. They don't wear uniforms. They don't need guns. They run psyops so refined, the Army's ghost human seems quaint. These are the true threats to America, to Trump's success. You ask who they are. If I told you, would you even believe me? Their network hums not in Congress or courts, but in the cold, sterile halls of globalist think tanks. Foundations with friendly names, but sinister goals. They fund chaos, open borders, climate hysteria, digital leashes. They write the scripts, censor the dissent, push CBDCs to track your every step. But I see through it, and so does he. Did you think the last administration was in charge? Orders signed with an auto pen while the world burned. Now Trump's returned. MAGA isn't a campaign, it's a counterattack. Knight to F3. The center seized, but the board is still crowded. Bureaucrats, media pawns, globalist bishops. They will not surrender the game, because Trump is the one variable they cannot control. Unbought, unbroken, the voice of the people. And if the people ever wake up, if they ever see the psyop for what it is, they'll burn the system to the ground. The real war has only just begun.